Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin Mommy, and I'm here with a supplemental tutorial for my new pattern, Temperature Stitches. This pattern has all specialty stitches. There's no regular cross stitches in this pattern. And traditionally, this design would be done on an even weave because several of the stitches need to puncture the center of a normal block. So this is my model. And it's done on a 28 count even weave. And some of these stitches need to be done with like where you would poke down in the center of an Aida block. If this is the equivalent of a 14 count Aida, and then you would have to punch down in the middle. So it is possible to do it on an Aida. It's not recommended, but there are two ways to do it if you really need to use Aida and you want to try this. So one is to stitch it like this size, and puncture the Aida squares with your needle. That's always an option. The other option is to just stitch it twice as large, and then every one of these fabric squares, you would just do the fabric square on your Aida, and it would just be twice as big. And so I did some calculations for you here. This is on Aida over 2, the new stitch count would be 236 by 180, and on 14 count over 2, it would be 16 and 80.86 or 12.86 would be the full size. It's not outrageous. So if you really want to do it that way, it is a possibility. I would go up to all of this I did with one strand, except for the satin stitches and the Scotch stitches. Those I did 2 strands. So on 14 count over 2, I might do 2 for everything and then 4 for these corner ones to make sure the coverage is right. And I'll be able to like demonstrate that on camera too. So I thought I would do some stitching here on some Aida for you. Okay, today we're going to talk about the August stitch, which is the diagonally framed French knot. So this one's fun, I think, and French knots don't need to be scary. I think possibly where some people struggle is wanting them to be perfect every single time, but knots are not perfect, they're just knots. So it's okay if they're not exactly, whatever. But there are techniques that make it so that they can be tight each time, and I think that's the best you can hope for. So let's start with the big stitch. My original design or original model is a 28 count over 2 fabric threads. So that's what these ones are. These are the August stitches. And if you're doing it on Aida, you would need to pierce the thread, pierce the blocks on Aida. So we're gonna do the big one, which is like as if you're treating this like an even weave, where you're going from hole to hole. So this is 14 count. We'll do 14 count over 2. So if this were cross stitch, it would be really small, really big, like seven count stitches. So we'll start with, I guess we'll start on the bottom. I think I usually start on the bottom with stitches, and I have 2 strands on my needle. That's really short. Hopefully that'll be long enough. I have a loop start. So we'll start on the bottom. We'll go up 2 stitches, which is diagonally, which is 4 fabric threads or 4 blocks on the Aida. Do a loop start there. And in order to get tension nice, we want to always go across every time. So we'll go up to full quote unquote stitches, or 4 fabric threads up diagonally from the first hole. Let's try to make this lay nicer. Sometimes when you have a loop start, the first leg is a little bit wonky, especially when it's really long like this. We'll just let it go. So then we want to go all the way across. And we can, either way, we can maybe just keep it consistent. I can't remember what I put in my notes. Maybe I should go look at that. And now we want to do the one in the middle, so we ended up here, so we'll come down and start down at the bottom again. We can go this way. Pull it across all the way to the other side. All the way to the other side. And it doesn't really matter what order you do these in, as long as you are always, the back is always being pulled directly opposite where you were, because that'll help the stitch legs look the nicest with the tension. So your back will be like a plus sign. You just always use the holes, keep each. Here's really short. But now we want to go in and do our center, which is going to be the French knot. And right now we've got a thick layer here, which I mentioned in my original tutorial, will help your French knot not slip through like it might sometimes if you're going back through the same hole. It shouldn't go back through because there's a whole bunch there blocking it. So you want to hold the thread. That's the most important thing. We're going to do 2 wraps because we did 2 wraps with the single strand small version. This is 2 strands, but we still want to have it be the same. So we'll go back through the hole we came up in. Keep this thread tight until your needle is all the way through. That's the most important part of a French knot. Then you can let go and it'll make its little knot right there in the middle. Now this one, it has more breathing room in here than the little one will. You can see more fabric in there, but that's okay. It'll just be slightly roomier than the other one. And I will get a different thread to do our second one because apparently I didn't get a long enough thread for this stitch to be able to do 2 at once. All right, now that we have our second, I have my needle threaded again. We'll do the second one because I've always been doing 2 of each of these. In my pattern, I have them touching in the corners on the sides, but not the top. So I'll go ahead and count as if we were doing it in the design. 2 full stitches or 4 fabric threads on the diagonal to get to the bottom. And then we'll go back up and touch that point because in the design they touch. So now that we're here, we're going to go all the way across. And go all the way across to the top and go around again. Once you've got the points in place, you've counted accurately, got your, on point square. It's easy to do the rest. You just come down, do the next round of stitches, making your little corral around your French knot. It's very skinny fabric, so it's catching on the sides. So again, we're always coming up opposite wherever you just went down so that your back should look like a plus sign. And then we'll kind of wiggle our way through the center to get to that center hole. Hold this fabric tight, or this thread tight, wrap twice around your needle. trying to look in the camera at the same time, making sure I'm centered. So we go down, keep this thread tight until you're all the way through. Then you can let go. And there's your diagonally framed French knot with 2 strands on Aida over 2 fabric threads. So now we'll do the smaller version, which would match the size of if you were going to stitch this on even weave. Only because it's on Aida, you have to pierce the fabric threads. So with this particular stitch, some of these stitches you don't need to pierce threads, fabric threads, and some you do. This one you do. All right, so we'll do some little ones. This one will come up on the bottom, catch it because it's a single strand. Go up 2 diagonally, 2 stitches. And remember, we're going to go across wherever we went down. We're going to come up across, just like we did before. Then we'll go across again. I'm splitting threads when I don't want to be splitting threads. I want to make sure this is catching back here. Come across again, catch this again, there we go. And then now is where we're going to need to split. So we'll come down here and split the fabric thread in between these blocks, right about there. And we'll just split on this side too. Come across, splitting, come down, split. Try to get as close to the center as you can. Try to reuse the holes that you've made the first time. And we'll come down, we'll get to use a hole again this time for this. So just that one inner rim is the only one that you need to split. Or yeah, the middle one. I guess the inner one and the outer one you don't need to split. The middle one you do. This would have been the best way to say that. So then we'll come up the center hole. There should be a plus sign in the back to protect your French knot from going through. Again, we'll wrap our needle twice, or wrap the thread twice around the needle. Go back through the hole. Hold the thread tight until your needle's all the way through. You might need to loosen it just a touch to let the needle pass because the eye is slightly larger than the rest of the needle. And then we'll come over here, start another one, assuming there's 2 days in a row that are the same color. This first one is pretty simple on the Aida because you're just using the holes. Now we got to split. This one's the trickier part. Yay, now we get to go back to some Aida holes again finish out the stitch. Smokey is very insistent on wanting to join me, but I've got my setup all nice here. I'm almost done. All right, let's do the French knot. Then wrap it twice, go back down the hole, hold the thread tight, and then pull it together. See, there's a lot less space showing when you do the small version than there is with the big version. Because I think the ratio is off, because your knots don't get all that much bigger, even though there's a 2 strands here, but you know, it still looks fine either way. So that's how you would do the diagonally framed French knot on Aida, either over 1 or over 2. Yeah. And that's it for August.